AITA for refusing to sign a prenuptial agreement my fiancé's family insisted on, which caused a huge fallout and led to me being accused of mistrust and greed. This is a long story, and I'm struggling with whether I'm actually the bad guy here, so I'm hoping to get some perspective. I, 30F, am engaged to Mark, 32M. We've been together for about 4 years and recently decided to get married. I'm a software engineer, and Mark works in finance. We live together in a rented apartment and have been talking about the future seriously for over a year. Mark comes from a very wealthy family. His parents are well-known entrepreneurs with a substantial estate, multiple properties, and successful businesses. I, on the other hand, come from a modest background. My parents worked hard to support me through school, but we're middle class and don't have any significant assets. A few months ago, when Mark and I started talking about the wedding, his parents asked to meet with me. At the meeting, his mother, Evelyn, very politely but firmly brought up the topic of a prenuptial agreement. She said it was standard practice in their family to protect their assets, and it was just a formality to ensure that the family legacy stayed intact. Mark's father also emphasized the importance of keeping family wealth within their bloodline. I was surprised, but said I was open to discussing it. A lawyer was hired to draft an agreement, and I was given a chance to review it with my own lawyer as well. The agreement itself was heavily skewed in favor of Mark's family. It protected the family business and real estate, stated that any inheritance or gifts from them would remain theirs, and limited my claims to just a small amount of money we had saved together. I felt uncomfortable with some of the terms, especially the part that said if the marriage ended, I would have to pay back a significant sum if I had received financial help from the family during the marriage. It also included a clause that prevented me from pursuing any legal action against Mark or his family for business disputes, even if I was personally affected. I raised my concerns with Mark. I told him I wasn't against a prenup entirely. I get that it can be a smart financial move, but this one felt unfair and one-sided. I asked if we could negotiate the terms so it would be more balanced and reflect us as a couple, rather than just protecting his family. Mark told me he understood, but that his parents were very adamant about the agreement as is. He said he didn't want to upset them and that this was part of joining their family. I said I couldn't sign something that would leave me vulnerable and feeling like I had no protection or respect. We argued a lot about it. Mark said that refusing to sign made me look like I didn't trust him or was trying to take advantage of his family's wealth. He accused me of being greedy and disrespectful to his parents, who had been nothing but welcoming. The tension escalated to the point where his parents started calling me cold and manipulative. They also told Mark that if I didn't sign, the wedding wouldn't happen and I wouldn't be accepted into the family. I stood my ground, telling them I wanted to be married to Mark, but not at the cost of my dignity or fairness. Mark then told me he wasn't sure if our relationship could survive this fight. The fallout has been terrible. We've postponed the wedding, and I'm feeling isolated and doubting myself. Some friends say I'm right to protect myself and that a prenup should be a mutual agreement, not an ultimatum. Others think I should have compromised to keep the peace and the family happy. I love Mark and want to be with him, but I'm afraid that if I sign this prenup, I'll regret it later. At the same time, I don't want to lose him over this. So, AITA for refusing to sign my fiancé's family's prenuptial agreement, which they see as a necessary formality and causing all this conflict. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she deliberately excluded me from the planning and insulted my fiancé. This story is going to be a bit long because there's a lot of context, but I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. So, I, 28F, have a sister, Emily, 30F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, smart, charismatic, and always the center of attention. I was the quieter sibling, more introverted and less confident. We never really clashed until we got older, But things have definitely gotten worse over the past few years, especially after I started dating my fiancé, Jake, 30M. Jake and I met about 3 years ago, and he's been wonderful to me. Supportive, kind, and very easygoing. But Emily never liked him. From the beginning, she'd make passive-aggressive comments about him, like how he wasn't ambitious enough or how he was too boring compared to the guys she dated. I brushed it off because I loved Jake and didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Fast forward to about a year ago, Emily got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Mark. When she announced it, I was genuinely happy for her and immediately asked if she wanted me to help with the wedding planning. I thought since we're sisters, maybe I could be part of the process and hopefully mend some of the tension between us. Emily said she had everything under control and didn't need much help. I thought that was fine. Planning a wedding can be stressful, so I didn't push. I figured she'd come to me if she needed anything. A few months later, I found out through a mutual friend that Emily had excluded me entirely from the bridal party and the main planning decisions. Not only that, but she had told people that Jake and I were not close enough and implied that Jake was unreliable, which is untrue. This hurt because we've been together a long time and are very serious. When I confronted Emily about it, she got defensive and said she didn't have to include me if she didn't want to. She also said she didn't think Jake was family material, which I found insulting. I reminded her that I'm her sister and that Jake is important to me, so excluding me felt like a deliberate slight. After that, things got icy. Emily barely spoke to me except for the occasional passive-aggressive comment or cold text. I tried to stay civil because I didn't want the family drama to escalate, but it was difficult. Then, about 2 months ago, Emily asked me if Jake and I could host her wedding reception at our house. Our house is spacious, and we have a nice backyard that would be perfect for a gathering. I was surprised by the request because she hadn't involved me in wedding planning, but I wanted to be supportive. I said I'd think about it and get back to her. Before I could decide, Emily sent me a long text detailing all the expectations for the reception, how she wanted everything arranged, the guest list, catering, decorations, and so on. The list was very demanding and basically implied I would handle almost everything. She also said she didn't want Jake involved in any of the preparations or hosting duties because he was too unreliable. At this point, I was hurt and frustrated. I felt like she was using my space and expecting me to do all the work without respecting me or Jake. I told her I wasn't comfortable hosting the reception under those terms. I also said that if she wanted to use our house, Jake and I would need to be involved in the planning and hosting, and she needed to respect our boundaries. Emily's response was a message that accused me of being selfish, petty, and trying to sabotage her wedding. She said if I didn't host the reception, she would have to find another venue and that I was making things harder for everyone. After that, I decided not to host the reception. I told Emily that I wanted to support her, but not at the cost of my dignity or by being treated like a servant. I also said that if she wanted a relationship with me and Jake, she needed to show some respect. Since then, Emily has been avoiding me, not responding to messages, and even blocked me on social media. My parents are caught in the middle and keep asking me to make peace for the sake of family. I'm feeling conflicted because I do love my sister, but I also feel like I'm not being treated fairly or respected. Hosting the wedding reception should have been a way to show support, but it turned into a source of stress and hurt. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding reception after she excluded me from the planning and insulted my fiancé. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he moved in without asking. This has been an ongoing situation for a while now, and honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how it escalated so badly. I'm 29F, and I own a 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. I've lived here for about 3 years now. My younger sister, 25F, lives about an hour away and has been dating her boyfriend, 27M, for the past year. Before I get into the details, I want to clarify that my sister and I are close, but we don't see each other daily or live together. So, my sister's boyfriend, let's call him Jake, has been around quite a bit over the past year, coming over to hang out or have dinner with us. We all get along fine, but about 6 months ago, things started to change. Jake went through some rough patches with work and his own living situation. My sister told me that Jake had nowhere stable to stay, because he was having some issues with his roommates and needed a place temporarily. She casually asked if he could crash on my couch for a couple of days until he got back on his feet. I agreed because I thought it was just temporary, a few days tops. Jake moved in, and it started out fine. However, those few days turned into weeks. Jake began acting as if he lived there permanently. He'd leave his things everywhere, make himself at home without asking, and even started inviting his friends over without letting me know. At first, I tried to be patient, but it was beginning to affect my daily routine and personal space. One of the bedrooms is my office, and the other is my spare guest room. Jake took over the guest room as his own space without discussing it with me. He even changed the setup of the room, putting his clothes in the closet and reorganizing some shelves. When I asked him about it, he brushed it off like it was no big deal, saying it's just easier this way. Over time, the house started to feel more like Jake's place than mine. My sister visited often, and sometimes they stayed overnight. What bothered me most was that none of them seemed to care to communicate with me about any of this. I work from home, so having this kind of disruption was really frustrating. I told my sister several times that Jake couldn't stay indefinitely and that he needed to figure something out, but she always said she was working on it or that Jake was trying his best. 3 months after he moved in, Jake lost his job and suddenly said he couldn't afford rent anywhere else. My sister told me he was down on his luck and asked if he could stay longer, promising they'd sort it out soon. At this point, I was getting fed up, but still tried to be understanding. I even tried to help Jake look for jobs and suggested local shelters or cheaper apartments, but he refused those options, saying he wanted to stay here. One weekend, I came home after a long day and found that Jake had thrown a small party without telling me. There were people I didn't know in my living room, drinking and playing loud music. When I confronted him, he apologized but said it was just a few friends hanging out and that I was overreacting. I told him this was unacceptable and that he needed to respect my space, especially since I hadn't agreed to any parties. This caused a huge argument between me and Jake, which ended with me telling him he needed to leave by the end of the week. I also told my sister I was serious about this and that I couldn't continue to host Jake indefinitely. My sister got defensive and said I was being selfish and that I didn't understand how hard it was for Jake. She also accused me of kicking her boyfriend out just to be difficult. I explained that it's not about being selfish, but about boundaries and respect for my home. The situation escalated when Jake refused to leave. He said he was family now and that I couldn't just throw him out. My sister sided with him and said I was being unreasonable. They both started avoiding me and only came by to pick up Jake's things weeks later. In the meantime, my apartment was a mess. Jake hadn't cleaned up after himself, left dirty dishes everywhere, and even damaged some furniture. I had to hire a cleaning service and pay for repairs. I've since blocked both of them from my social media and minimized contact. My sister has sent a few messages trying to guilt-trip me for not supporting her and Jake, but I'm standing firm. Now I'm wondering, AITA for refusing to let Jake stay in my place after he moved in without asking and overstayed his welcome? I feel like I gave him a chance and was more than accommodating, but they both treated my kindness like a given and didn't respect my home or boundaries. I want to know if I was wrong here or if I handled this the best way I could. I'm open to hearing different perspectives. AITA for refusing to give my in-laws the keys to my house, even though they demanded it, so they could help take care of my kids while my husband and I work. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, Jake, 36M, for 8 years. We have 2 kids, ages 6 and 3. We live in a suburban neighborhood, own a modest house, and have stable jobs, Jake in sales and me as a graphic designer. Our families live a few hours away, and we have a fairly normal relationship with both sides, with occasional visits and holidays together. The trouble started a few months ago when Jake's parents, Linda and Tom, approached us with a proposal. They said they wanted to be more involved in our kids' lives, especially now that both Jake and I are working full-time. Linda said that since they were retired and had a lot of free time, they wanted to help out by taking care of the kids during the day. She suggested that instead of having daycare or a babysitter, the kids could stay at our house while we were at work, and they'd drop by regularly, cook meals, and generally look after them. I was initially hesitant, but said I appreciated their willingness to help. The next thing I knew, Linda and Tom were asking for a spare set of keys to the house so they could pop in anytime to see the kids and make sure everything was okay. They framed it as a way to be more flexible and responsive since they wouldn't have to wait for us to get home or come over to drop off the kids. I told them I wasn't comfortable giving them keys. I said that while I appreciated the offer to help, Jake and I prefer to maintain our family privacy and boundaries. I also said that our kids' safety and routine were important to us, and we prefer to arrange childcare in a way that didn't involve just anyone coming into our home unannounced. Linda was visibly upset. She said that if we trusted them, we wouldn't have an issue with the keys. She insisted that family is family, and that this was how close families operated. Tom echoed that it was ridiculous to be so protective and that they only wanted to support us. Jake was caught in the middle. He initially agreed with me that the keys were too much but didn't want to upset his parents. Over time, he softened and said maybe we could give them keys with some ground rules. I pushed back and said no, keys meant full access, and that crossed a line for me. Things came to a head last weekend. Linda and Tom came to visit and asked again for the keys. When I refused, Linda said that if we didn't give them keys, they would have to reconsider their role in our kids' lives. She implied that if we didn't trust them enough to give access to our home, they might pull back and be less involved. I was angry and hurt. I told her that their involvement depended on respecting our boundaries and trust, and that keys were not something we were going to hand over. She left feeling offended, and since then, family visits have been tense. Jake feels torn, and I know his parents are hurt, but I don't want to compromise on this. Our friends are divided. Some say I'm right to protect my family's privacy and that giving keys is a big deal. Others say I'm overreacting and that if the in-laws genuinely want to help, I should trust them more. I love my in-laws and want my kids to have a strong relationship with them, but I also want to keep my home safe and my family's routine stable. So, AITA for refusing to give my in-laws the keys to my house. Even though they say it's to help take care of my kids, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after he made a huge scene over my dog. So, this is a bit of a long one, but I'm hoping you all can help me figure out if I'm really the asshole here or if I'm justified in standing my ground. A bit of background first. I, 32F, live in a small city apartment with my dog. Max is a rescue golden retriever, and honestly, he's the light of my life. I adopted him about 5 years ago, and since then, I've been really careful about his environment, his routine, and who gets close to him. Max has some anxiety issues, so I make sure to keep him in a calm and safe space. My sister, Emma, 29F, got engaged to her fiancé, Luke, 31, about 6 months ago. Emma and I have always had a complicated relationship. We love each other, but we're very different and often clash. Luke is a pretty intense guy, very opinionated and quick to anger. Emma tends to smooth things over, but honestly, Luke's temper has always made me a bit uncomfortable. Anyway, Luke has never really liked Max. He's not a dog person and has made that very clear. He's mentioned a few times that he doesn't want dogs around the house when they get married, but Emma brushes it off because she loves Max and knows how much he means to me. So here's where things start to get weird. Emma and Luke are planning their wedding and have been staying at my place a few times while sorting out logistics. I've been more than accommodating, letting them crash, helping with wedding stuff, all that. Last weekend, Luke stayed over again. I was out for the evening, and when I came back, Luke was sitting on my couch, visibly frustrated. Max was calmly lying on the floor near him, as usual. Luke immediately launched into a rant about how Max is ruining everything. He complained that Max is too loud, too needy, and makes the apartment smell. None of which is true, by the way. Max is very well behaved, gets groomed regularly, and doesn't bark unless there's something actually going on. I told Luke that I'd appreciate if he didn't insult my dog or my home. That's when things escalated. Luke started yelling at me, saying I was unreasonable and selfish for prioritizing a dog over the comfort of his fiancée, my sister, and himself. He said that if Emma wants to marry him, I need to make changes or he might not come to the wedding at all. I was shocked and honestly pretty hurt. My sister overheard this and tried to calm Luke down, but he wasn't having it. Eventually, I asked Luke to leave. He refused at first, saying I was being dramatic and overreacting. But after a few minutes of arguing, Emma convinced him to leave for the night. After that night, I told Emma that Luke wouldn't be welcome to stay at my place anymore if he was going to disrespect Max and me like that. Emma said I was being harsh and needed to compromise for the sake of a relationship. She said Luke has a right to feel comfortable, and I should consider that. I stood firm. Max is my family, and I won't tolerate anyone putting him down or trying to make me choose between him and my sister's fiancé. Fast forward to now, Emma is upset with me and hasn't spoken much. Luke is apparently telling her that I'm being unreasonable and that I'm driving a wedge between us. I'm feeling guilty, but also confused because I don't think I did anything wrong by standing up for my dog in my home. So, AITA here. Am I the asshole for refusing to let Luke stay at my place after he insulted my dog and made me feel uncomfortable in my own home? Or should I be more understanding and try to make things work for the sake of my sister's relationship? AITA for refusing to babysit my nephew after my sister blamed me for a failing marriage? This has been an incredibly tough situation, and I'm still trying to figure out where I stand morally. I'm 29F, and my sister Maggie, 33F, has been married to her husband Tom for about 7 years. They have a 4-year-old son, Ethan. For context, Maggie and I have always had a close relationship growing up, but as adults, things have become strained, especially over the past year. Maggie and Tom's marriage has been rocky for quite a while now. There have been constant arguments, and from what I hear, a lot of trust issues on both sides. I'm not going to go into all the details, but suffice it to say, the relationship is on thin ice. About 6 months ago, Maggie started asking me to babysit Ethan more frequently. At first, it was occasional, maybe a couple of hours here and there, so she could run errands or have a night out. I was happy to help. I love Ethan and generally get along well with him. But as time went on, Maggie started asking me to watch Ethan for entire weekends or several days at a time because she said Tom was too busy or not stepping up. The problem is I have my own full-time job and a hectic schedule. I also have my own small apartment and sometimes just need downtime. I expressed these concerns gently, but Maggie insisted it was a temporary phase. She said she was overwhelmed with work and needed the break. I tried to accommodate when I could, but it was starting to feel like she was using me as a free babysitter on a regular basis. Then, last month, Maggie dropped a bombshell. She called me, furious, and said that Tom was blaming her for the marriage failing because she was always relying on her family instead of handling things herself. She said Tom told her I was making things worse by taking Ethan away so often and that he blamed me for breaking up the family. I was stunned and hurt. I've never interfered in their marriage or said a word to Tom about their problems. I only stepped in to help when Maggie asked. When I tried to explain that I'm not the cause of their issues and that I was just helping out, Maggie accused me of not supporting her enough and not being a good sister. She said I was choosing my own comfort over her family's needs. After that call, Maggie asked me to babysit Ethan for 2 full weekends in a row. I told her no, explaining that I have commitments and that this level of childcare is beyond what I can reasonably provide. She blew up again, saying I was selfish and that I was abandoning her in a time of need. She also threatened to limit contact with Ethan if I didn't cooperate. I feel trapped. I want to support my sister, but I'm also not a free daycare service, and I can't sacrifice my life for her marital problems. On top of that, I'm worried about how this is affecting my relationship with Maggie and Ethan. I still love my nephew dearly and don't want to lose that connection. Our parents are involved now too, and they're taking Maggie's side, saying I should do more because family sticks together. Some friends think I'm right to set boundaries, but others say family means making sacrifices, even if it's inconvenient. I'm exhausted emotionally and physically, and I don't know if I'm being unreasonable or if Maggie is unfairly blaming me for things out of my control. So, AITA for refusing to babysit my nephew more often after my sister blamed me for a failing marriage. AITA for refusing to pay my sister's wedding costs after she demanded I cover half of everything despite barely speaking for years. This is going to be a long one because I need to explain some backstory before getting into the current situation. I'm 34F, and my sister, let's call her Emily, is 29F. We grew up pretty close, but things got complicated after college. We drifted apart mostly because of how she treated me and some choices she made. I don't want to dive too much into the past drama, but to give you a gist, Emily has always been the more dramatic and demanding sibling. She often guilt-tripped me into doing things I wasn't comfortable with, and over time, I started setting boundaries. That caused a rift, and now we barely talk, maybe once or twice a year during holidays, and even then it's strained. So fast forward to last month, I got a text from Emily out of the blue. She said, "Hey, I want to talk about the wedding expenses." That caught me off guard because, honestly, I didn't expect to be involved financially at all. She got engaged last year, and I hadn't heard any talk of this until now. The message continued that she and her fiancé were planning a pretty big wedding, and since I'm her sister, she expected me to contribute half of all the costs. I thought she was joking at first. Half of all the costs. That's thousands of dollars. She went on to break it down. Venue, catering, photographer, decorations, dress alterations, bridesmaids' gifts, rehearsal dinner, and even honeymoon costs. She expected me to pay half of those too. When I asked her if she was serious, she replied, "Well, you're family. It's traditional that siblings chip in, especially since we barely have other relatives helping out." Here's the thing. Emily has a history of exaggerating our closeness to get what she wants. I told her that I wasn't in a financial position to help with that level of expense, especially since we haven't been close, and I don't feel obligated to pay for a party that's not mine. I also pointed out that I never asked to be involved in the planning or any of the decisions, so it felt unfair to expect me to foot half the bill. That's when she blew up. Emily accused me of being selfish and unsupportive, saying I was choosing money over family. She also guilt-tripped me by reminding me of all the times she supposedly helped me in the past and how family should always stick together. I reminded her that help often came with strings attached and that I wasn't willing to sacrifice my own financial security for her wedding. Then she said something that really got me. "If you won't pay, don't bother showing up." That felt like a slap in the face, especially since I never said I wouldn't attend. I just said I wouldn't pay. I reached out to a few other family members to see if this was a normal expectation, and everyone seemed shocked that she would demand that from me. My parents said they'd help out a bit, but that it's ridiculous to expect siblings to pay half unless they explicitly agree to it. Now, I'm getting a ton of messages from mutual friends and relatives asking me why I'm refusing to support my sister and if I even care about family anymore. Some are telling me I should just pay to avoid drama, while others say Emily is overstepping. Honestly, the whole situation has put me on edge because it feels like I'm being forced into a corner where I either betray my boundaries or become a villain. I don't want to cut off contact, but I don't see why I should be financially responsible for something that's not mine, especially when Emily and I are barely on speaking terms. I'm also worried that if I give in, it will set a precedent for her to keep expecting money for every major life event. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay half of my sister's wedding costs, given how distant our relationship is and the way she's demanding it. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her choice of bridesmaids. So this is going to be a long one, but I want to lay everything out clearly because I feel like I'm being painted as the villain in this whole situation, and I don't think I deserve it. I, 29F, have a sister, Emily, 31F, and we've always been close-ish. Like any siblings, we've had our ups and downs, but nothing major. Emily got engaged about a year ago to her fiancé, Mark, and immediately started planning the wedding. The problem started with the bridesmaids. Emily has a close group of friends from college. Let's call them the core four, because they've been inseparable since then. She wanted these 4 women to be her bridesmaids. Fair enough, right? However, I was never close to these women. They have their own little clique, and I always felt like an outsider around them. When Emily asked me if I wanted to be a bridesmaid, I was surprised she even asked because she had already told me earlier that the bridesmaids would only be those 4 friends. At first, I was okay with just being a guest, but then I found out that Emily's core 4 friends were the only bridesmaids, and I wasn't included at all. Not even as a maid of honor or anything. Just left out completely. I tried not to take it personally and was happy for my sister. But things started to feel off after that. Fast forward a few months. I went to visit Emily and Mark, and I met the bridesmaids. They were all nice enough, but I felt a little judged by them, like they were silently saying, "Why is she here?" The tension was weird. Then I found out from a mutual friend that the bridesmaids had been making little comments about me behind my back. Things like I was too controlling, not fun, and always trying to steal the spotlight, which I found ridiculous because I don't remember ever doing any of those things to them or Emily. I confronted Emily about it, hoping she would stick up for me or at least talk to her friends, but she said she hadn't heard anything and that I was overreacting. She told me that if I was going to be like that, maybe I should just skip the wedding. That really hurt. I tried to brush it off, but when Emily sent out invitations, I noticed something else. My boyfriend, let's call him Alex, and I were invited, but he was asked to pay for his own hotel room, whereas Mark and Emily's families and the bridesmaids' partners were all put up in a hotel suite paid for by Emily. I brought this up with Emily, and she said it was because Alex wasn't family or a longtime friend. It would be too expensive to put everyone up. Again, it felt like a slight. Then, the final straw came when Emily sent out a group chat with all the bridesmaids and family members to plan the bachelorette party. She didn't include me. I asked her directly why, and she said it was because she wanted the party to be just the core group. I told her that it felt like she was excluding me on purpose, and she said, "It's not about excluding you. It's about keeping the group cohesive. You wouldn't fit in any way." That comment stung. I felt like I was being pushed out of an event that should include my sister and me, no matter what. At this point, I felt hurt, angry, and confused. I tried to talk to Emily calmly, but she just brushed it off or said I was making a big deal out of nothing. After weeks of back and forth, I decided to talk to my parents. They agreed that Emily had been dismissive and unfair, but they didn't want to get involved too much because they thought it was a family issue. Ultimately, I told Emily I wasn't going to the wedding. I said that I couldn't be a part of a celebration where I felt so unwelcome and disrespected. Emily was furious. She said I was being selfish, that this was her day, and I was making it about me. She told me I was tearing the family apart, and that she didn't want me in her life anymore if I wasn't going to support her. Since then, our relationship has been strained. Family gatherings are awkward. I've lost contact with most of Emily's friends, and I feel like I'm constantly defending my decision to people who think I'm a bad guy. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she excluded me from the bridal party, the bachelorette party, and the overall planning. I love my sister, but I also have to protect my own mental health. Was I too harsh? Should I have swallowed my pride and gone just for the sake of family? Or is Emily the one who crossed the line? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the seating arrangement. I, 32F, have always been close to my sister, Emma, 29F. Growing up, we were inseparable, despite the usual sibling arguments. She's always been a bit of a perfectionist and can be quite controlling, but I never minded too much because I love her. However, recently things have escalated, and now I'm wondering if I'm the asshole for refusing to attend her wedding because of something that seems trivial to some, but is a big deal to me. Emma got engaged about a year ago to her fiancé, Matt, 30M. They've been together for 5 years and genuinely seem happy. When they announced the wedding date, I was excited and immediately offered to help with planning. I've always loved event planning and wanted to make this special for her. The trouble started when Emma told me about the seating arrangements. She explained that she was grouping guests very specifically, including family and friends, based on a complex web of relationships. I was fine with that. What upset me was that she insisted that my husband, Jake, 34M, and I sit at a table with her fiancé's extended family. I'm not close to any of Matt's relatives, and frankly find many of them quite rude and judgmental. But I shrugged it off at first. What really set me off was when Emma said that I couldn't sit with my own family, including my parents and younger brother, who were all sitting together. She said it was important to her that both sides of the family be represented at all tables, so she was mixing everyone up intentionally. I protested and said it felt awkward and unnecessary. My husband and I have a close bond with my family, and being separated from them on what should be a family celebration felt isolating. Emma got very defensive and said that I was making it about me and that it was her day, so I should respect her decisions. She said she was trying to avoid old family drama that sometimes flared up when my family and her fiancé's family interacted too closely. She mentioned a few minor past arguments that I wasn't even aware of, which made me feel blindsided. I tried to reason with her that excluding us from sitting with my own family wasn't about avoiding drama. It was about feeling supported and comfortable. I asked if there was any compromise, like maybe sitting next to them or at least at a table nearby. She said no. It had to be this way because she wanted to keep the tables balanced. The more we talked, the more Emma accused me of being selfish and unwilling to put her happiness first. She even brought up the fact that I wasn't involved enough in the planning and implied I wasn't supportive enough. That hurt because I had been helping behind the scenes with the decorations and music, all while working a demanding job. After a week of tense conversations, I finally told Emma that if I couldn't sit with my family, I wouldn't come to the wedding. I said it wasn't just about me. It was about my husband and I wanting to be surrounded by people we care about on a day that's supposed to be about family unity. Emma was furious and accused me of ruining her wedding before it even started. Our parents tried to mediate, saying both sides should try to be flexible, but Emma is very stubborn. She sent me a group message telling me that if I chose not to come, she would consider our relationship damaged and possibly over. My parents begged me to reconsider, saying this was a once-in-a-lifetime event and I'd regret not being there. I still haven't replied, but I'm feeling terrible. On one hand, I think it's unreasonable for Emma to dictate who I sit next to at my sister's wedding. On the other hand, I know it's her special day and maybe I'm being difficult. Am I the asshole for refusing to go because of the seating arrangements? Or is Emma overreacting by forcing this and threatening our relationship? I really want to understand if I'm in the wrong here. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he threatened my husband? This has been a roller coaster, and honestly, I'm still trying to process everything. I need some outside perspective because the family drama is escalating and people keep telling me I'm the villain, which feels so wrong. I, 33F, have a younger sister, Claire, 28F. We've always been close growing up, but as adults, we've had some ups and downs, mostly because of Claire's relationships. She tends to jump into things quickly, and often her partners bring chaos with them. I married my husband, Mark, 35M, 5 years ago, and we have a 3-year-old daughter, Emily. Claire has been dating this guy, Jake, 30M, for about 6 months now. From the start, I wasn't thrilled. He's got a reputation for being a bit of a hothead and has a history of getting into fights and legal troubles, which Claire never mentioned to me or Mark. I wanted to give him a fair chance, but I was cautious. A few weeks ago, Claire and Jake came over for dinner at our house. It was supposed to be a casual thing so Claire and I could catch up and Mark and Jake could meet each other. Emily was playing quietly in the living room. During dinner, Jake was loud and aggressive. He kept interrupting Mark and me, dismissing our opinions, and getting into a heated debate about politics with Mark, which escalated quickly. I asked Jake to calm down, but he ignored me. After dinner, Mark and I were cleaning up, and Claire stepped out to take Emily upstairs for her bedtime routine. Suddenly, Jake grabbed Mark's arm roughly and said, "You need to back off. There's going to be trouble." I froze. I couldn't believe Jake was threatening my husband in my own home. Mark looked shocked but stayed calm and told Jake to leave. Jake refused, saying he didn't care whose house it was. He wasn't going anywhere. I told him firmly to get out or I would call the police. He finally stormed out, but the tension was unbearable. Afterward, Claire came back downstairs with Emily, and I told her what happened. She immediately defended Jake, saying he was just stressed and that Mark had provoked him by talking down to Jake. I told her that no one has the right to threaten my husband or anyone else, and that Jake needed to apologize. Claire got angry and accused me of overreacting and not trusting her judgment. She said Jake wouldn't apologize because he felt justified and that if I wasn't willing to let him stay at our place when he needed it, she'd find somewhere else for him, and she might just stop visiting. Fast forward to 2 days ago, Jake lost his apartment after an incident with his landlord. Claire asked if Jake could stay with us temporarily while she looked for another place for him. I said no. I don't feel safe having someone who threatened my husband living under the same roof, especially since he has a temper and no respect for boundaries. Claire called me cold and unreasonable, and Mark agreed with me on this one, but Claire's other family members think I should support her and help Jake in his time of need. They say I'm being selfish and that it's not like Jake actually hurt anyone. Yesterday, Claire came over with Jake and demanded I change my mind. Jake tried to charm me, but I didn't fall for it. Then Jake got aggressive again, saying that if I don't let him stay, I'm ruining Claire's life and that Mark should watch his back. I told them both to leave immediately, and I blocked Claire on all social media after she called me a terrible sister and mother for not putting family first. Now, my parents and other relatives are pressuring me to apologize and make peace. Some of my friends think I'm justified, but others say I'm escalating things unnecessarily. I don't want to lose my family, but I can't compromise my safety or my husband's. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house after he threatened my husband and then got aggressive again? Is this just normal family drama that I'm blowing out of proportion, or am I right to stand my ground? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my estranged husband and asked me to just deal with it. This has been eating me alive for weeks, so here goes. A little background. My sister, let's call her Anna, and I have always had a pretty complicated relationship. We're 6 years apart in age, and while we were close growing up, adulthood has made us grow apart for a bunch of reasons. The biggest one being my marriage to my ex-husband, Tom. He was Anna's best friend's older brother, so they all knew each other for a long time before we even got together. Tom and I got married 4 years ago after dating for about 2 years. Things were great for the first year or so, but gradually cracks started to show. He was very controlling, extremely jealous, and not very supportive of my career or friendships. I stayed because I hoped things would get better, but after a year and a half, I realized I couldn't live like that anymore and left him. It was messy but peaceful enough. No yelling, no drama in public, no allegations or anything, just an understanding that it wasn't working. And it did not take this well. She felt like I betrayed her friend and, by extension, her family. She never outright said it to me, but I could feel the coldness every time we interacted. Our conversations became forced and short, and she stopped inviting me to family events or even texting. I tried to reach out and talk, but she would just brush me off. Fast forward to now. Anna is getting married next month. When she sent me the invitation, I thought it was a step toward reconciliation, so I was cautiously optimistic. But then I saw the guest list. Tom was invited. I messaged her privately, asking if she was serious about inviting him, knowing the history. I told her I was not comfortable being at the same event with him, especially since he and I haven't spoken since the divorce. Anna's response blindsided me. She said, and I quote, "He's family now, and I want everyone there. You'll have to just deal with it if you want to come." She added that excluding him would cause unnecessary drama and that she hoped I could put the past behind us for one day. I told her that I couldn't and wouldn't be attending if he was there. I also asked if it was possible to ask Tom not to come or to have him come at a different time. The ceremony and reception are at the same venue, but I thought maybe he could arrive later. She said no, that it was important to her that they share this day as family, and that I was being immature and petty. So, I declined the invitation. Now the whole family knows, and it's become this huge mess. My parents are on Anna's side and say I should be more forgiving and family-oriented. They say Anna's wedding is a day to celebrate love and unity, and that I'm making it about old grudges. My friends are split. Some say I'm right to protect myself. Others think I should mature and attend for the sake of peace. Anna stopped talking to me entirely, and some of our mutual friends have taken sides, which has been tough. The thing is, I'm not trying to be difficult. I just can't be in the same room as Tom without feeling anxious and upset. He treated me poorly, and I need boundaries to heal. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my estranged husband and told me to just deal with it. Was I wrong not to go? Should I have swallowed my discomfort for the sake of family harmony? I feel like I'm losing my sister and my family over this, but I don't know how to make it right without sacrificing my own well-being. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he trashed it during a weekend visit. This has been a huge source of tension in my family for the past few months, and honestly, I still don't know if I'm in the wrong here. I, 32F, have a pretty decent life. I live alone in a 3-bedroom house I bought a few years ago after saving up and working hard. It's my sanctuary, and I'm very particular about keeping it clean and well-maintained. I'm not obsessive, but I do have standards. I love hosting close friends and family occasionally, but I'm selective because I want to keep my home in good shape. My younger sister, Sarah, 28F, has been dating this guy, Jake, 30M, for about a year now. At first, I liked Jake. He seemed charming and funny, and I was happy my sister had found someone she enjoyed spending time with. But over the months, I started hearing stories from Sarah and my parents about Jake's behavior that didn't sit right with me. Things like being irresponsible with money, having a bit of a reckless streak, and not always treating Sarah well emotionally. Anyway, last summer, Sarah asked if Jake could come stay at my place for a weekend while they visited from out of town. She said they just wanted a quiet weekend, and she promised Jake would respect my house rules. I wasn't thrilled, but figured it was a one-time thing. And since Sarah promised they'd be careful, I agreed. Big mistake. From the moment they arrived, things started going downhill. First, Jake brought over a couple of friends without asking. I was uncomfortable, but let it slide, thinking maybe it was a one-time thing. The next day, I noticed trash piling up in the living room and kitchen, empty bottles scattered, and a weird smell. When I brought it up, Sarah apologized and said Jake's friends would clean up before they left. They didn't. The morning after their departure, I woke up to find my house in complete disarray. There were beer cans crushed in the couch cushions, cigarette burns on my coffee table, broken glass in the hallway, and one of the bedroom doors had a huge dent in it. The carpet had stains I still haven't been able to fully remove. Worst of all, my laptop was missing from my desk. I was horrified. I immediately texted Sarah to confront her. She was defensive and said she didn't know what had happened, and that Jake must have been stressed from work and didn't mean to cause damage. When I asked about my laptop, she claimed she hadn't seen it and suggested maybe I misplaced it. I wasn't buying it. I ended up filing a police report for the stolen laptop and getting estimates for repairs, which ran into thousands of dollars. I told Sarah that Jake was no longer welcome at my house, and that if they wanted to visit, they needed to stay elsewhere. That's when the real drama began. Sarah blew up my phone, accusing me of overreacting and not trusting her or Jake. She said I was being unfair and that Jake wasn't like that. My parents got involved, and they sided with her, saying I should forgive and forget because it was a mistake and that family should stick together. I refused. I said I can't just pretend my home wasn't vandalized and my belongings stolen. I also told them if Sarah wanted to repair the relationship, she could start by helping me pay for the damages. She refused, saying Jake had no money and that I was being unreasonable. We haven't spoken much since then. Sarah has been avoiding me, and our parents are disappointed in me for not making peace. So, Reddit, am I the asshole here for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house again after he trashed it and stole from me? Or should I have forgiven and just moved on for the sake of family? AITA for refusing to give my sister's wedding dress to her best friend after she promised it to me? 28F, come from a pretty close-knit family, and I have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who is getting married next spring. Emily and I have always been close, but had our usual sibling ups and downs growing up. Our relationship has been generally good, and as adults, we've maintained a strong bond. Emily recently got engaged to her fiancé, Matt, and things have been moving fast. When she told me she'd found the perfect wedding dress, I was thrilled for her. She bought this stunning vintage-style dress from a boutique that had a one-of-a-kind design. It suited her personality and style perfectly, and I was happy for her to have something special. Before the dress arrived, Emily told me something surprising. Her best friend, Sarah, had fallen in love with the dress as well and had asked Emily if she could wear it to her own wedding someday. Emily agreed and said she would pass the dress down to Sarah after her wedding day. Now, here's the catch. When Emily told me this, she also said she wanted me to have the dress first. Her plan was that after Emily's wedding, she would give me the dress, and then when I was done with it, I would pass it on to Sarah. She said Sarah was really attached to it, and Emily wanted it to stay in the circle of close friends and family. I was touched that Emily wanted me to have a dress, and I happily accepted. After all, I don't have a wedding plan right now, but I figure it would be a beautiful keepsake or something I could wear for a special occasion. I felt honored that Emily trusted me with something so important. Fast forward a few weeks. Emily's wedding is getting closer, and the dress has arrived. It looks even more beautiful in person, and everyone is excited. Emily and I were joking about me borrowing it for a fun photo shoot sometime after her wedding. Then, out of nowhere, Sarah messaged me privately and said she wanted to clarify something about the dress. She said she expected to get the dress from Emily after the wedding, but recently Emily told her that the dress would be going to me permanently because Emily wanted me to have it as her sister and a family member first. Sarah said she was upset because Emily had promised a dress to her, and she felt like I was cutting in line since I wasn't even married or engaged. She also said she had emotional attachments to the dress since she and Emily have been best friends for over 10 years and have been dreaming about wearing that dress herself one day. I was caught off guard by Sarah's message. I told her that Emily told me she wanted me to have the dress first, and that I didn't plan on keeping it forever or anything. I was happy to pass it on when time came. I also said I understood why she was upset, but that Emily's decision was final. After that, Sarah started posting passive-aggressive messages on social media about friends cutting in line and broken promises, which hurt Emily's feelings. Emily confronted Sarah and told her that she had no intention of changing her mind and that the dress would go to me first, then to Sarah. She also said that she wanted the dress to stay within the family circle before it went to friends. Sarah then told Emily she felt betrayed and said she might not attend the wedding if things weren't sorted out. Emily came to me, frustrated and stressed. She said she didn't want to lose Sarah as a friend, but also didn't want to break her promise to me. I told Emily I respected her wishes and didn't want to cause drama, but I also didn't want to be seen as the villain for just accepting what Emily offered me in the first place. I told her maybe we could all talk together and clear the air. Emily agreed, and we arranged a group video call with Sarah. During the call, Sarah reiterated her feelings of betrayal and said that Emily had promised her the dress long ago, so she felt like Emily was favoring me unfairly. I tried to explain that I had no part in this decision and was just accepting Emily's offer. The conversation got heated, with Sarah accusing Emily of playing favorites and Emily saying she needed to make a choice that felt right for her and her family. I stayed mostly quiet because I didn't want to escalate things. In the end, Sarah said she still planned to come to the wedding, but was hurt and disappointed. Emily told her she loved her, but had to stick to her plan. I don't know if the friendship will fully recover from this. Now, a few weeks later, my family and friend are starting to ask if I'm the reason Sarah is upset, or why Emily is fighting with her best friend. Some people have even hinted that I should give the dress up to Sarah to keep the peace, but I feel like I'm being unfairly blamed for something I had no control over. So, Reddit, AITA for accepting and planning to keep my sister's wedding dress after she promised it to her best friend. Even though Sarah is upset and threatening to boycott the wedding, should I just give up the dress to keep the peace? Or did I do nothing wrong by simply accepting what Emily offered me? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he destroyed my belongings and then blamed me for it? This has been a huge family mess, and I'm honestly still trying to wrap my head around everything that happened. I need an outside perspective on whether I'm the asshole here. So a little background first. I, 32F, live alone in a city apartment I've worked really hard to afford. I have a decent job and take pride in my home. I don't have roommates or anyone else living with me, and I generally like it that way. My sister, Emily, 28F, lives in another city but visits often. She's been dating Jason, 30M, for about a year now. Jason and I have never really gotten along, but I've tried to keep things civil because he's important to Emily. A couple of months ago, Emily called me out of the blue and said Jason lost his job unexpectedly and had nowhere to stay while he figured things out. She asked if he could crash at my place for a few days while he got back on his feet. I was hesitant, but said okay, thinking it would be temporary and I could handle it. Jason showed up the next day with just a duffel bag. I showed him around the apartment and set some ground rules. No parties, no guests without asking me. Respect the space, and basically act like a guest. He agreed. At first, things were fine. He kept to himself mostly, looked for jobs online, and wasn't a bother. After about 3 days, Emily called and told me she wanted to come stay for a weekend and wanted Jason to stay at my place as well. I said okay, but reminded her about the rules and that I expected my things to be respected. They both arrived that weekend, and that's when things started to get out of control. On the second night of their stay, I came home late from work to find a bunch of trash in the living room and my couch cushions ripped open with stuffing everywhere. There was a broken lamp and some stains on the carpet that weren't there before. When I asked what happened, Jason said, "Oh, the dog got into it, but Emily doesn't have a dog and I don't either." I told him I didn't have any pets and that this kind of mess wasn't acceptable. Jason got defensive and said I must have done something and that maybe I was losing it because I didn't remember if I had a dog or not. Emily looked uncomfortable but didn't say much. I asked him to clean up and Jason agreed but didn't do much. The couch cushions were barely put back together and the stains remained. I was frustrated but didn't want to escalate things. I told them that since they caused damage, they need to pay for repairs or replacement. The next day, Emily said she and Jason would get the couch professionally cleaned and fixed, and I appreciated that. But then the damage got worse. On the fourth night, I woke up to loud noises coming from the living room. When I checked, I found Jason trying to move my TV stand, and he knocked over a framed photo of my late grandmother, which shattered on the floor. I was furious and asked him what he was doing. He said he was looking for the remote and accidentally knocked it over. I told him to be more careful and to clean it up, but he shrugged it off. Later, Emily said Jason was really stressed and that accidents happen, and she asked me to be more understanding. I said I understood stress, but it didn't give anyone the right to destroy my stuff and not take responsibility. That night, Jason stayed out late and came back drunk. He stumbled into my bedroom, which I clearly told him was off limits, and knocked over a lamp and spilled a drink on my nightstand. The next morning, I found cigarette burns on the carpet near the window, something I'm allergic to and have explicitly banned in the apartment. I confronted Jason, telling him that his behavior was unacceptable and that he needed to leave immediately. Emily begged me to give him another chance and said she'd handle the damage herself, but I refused. I gave Jason 24 hours to pack up and leave. Emily was angry with me and accused me of being harsh and unsupportive of Jason during his rough patch. She said I was making her choose between her boyfriend and me. I told her that I wasn't comfortable having someone in my home who disrespected me and my property. Since then, Emily has barely spoken to me and says I ruined her relationship by not being welcoming enough. My parents have also taken her side, saying I could have been more understanding and flexible. I feel like I was justified, especially since Jason caused actual damage, disrespected my home, and didn't take responsibility. But part of me wonders if I overreacted or should have been more patient since he was going through a tough time. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he destroyed my belongings and blaming me for it. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my husband and me. My sister and I have always had a complicated relationship. We grew up in the same household, but couldn't be more different in personalities and values. I'm a very private person who prefers small, intimate gatherings and values kindness and respect above all. My sister is outgoing, dramatic, and craves attention, often at the expense of others. Our parents always tried to keep the peace, but there's always been this underlying tension between us. About 2 years ago, I got married to my husband, Matt. He's the kindest person I know, patient, and always tries to keep me grounded when my anxiety flares up. He's also very protective of me, which I appreciate immensely. When Matt and I got engaged, I invited my sister to be a part of the wedding planning process, hoping it could help mend some fences. She initially agreed, but as the plans progressed, her attitude became more toxic. She constantly undermined my decisions, insisting on having things her way. For example, when I picked a modest venue, she complained it wasn't glamorous enough and tried to pressure me into upgrading it to something she felt was wedding-worthy. When I rejected her ideas, she became passive-aggressive, making snide comments about how small and cheap the wedding would be. I tried to brush it off, but it was clear she wanted to control the event and make it about her. Matt and I tried to set boundaries, asking her to respect our choices, but she brushed those off and started excluding us from her own social circles, basically treating Matt like he didn't exist. At one point, she outright refused to speak to Matt when he tried to have a conversation with her at a family gathering. I was embarrassed and frustrated, but didn't want to cause a scene, so I kept quiet. Fast forward to last year, my sister got engaged to a man named Jason. I congratulated her sincerely and said I'd love to celebrate with her. When she started planning the wedding, she invited me, but made it clear Matt was not welcome. She told me privately that she didn't want that guy ruining her special day. I was stunned. I asked why, but she only said Matt was too sensitive and didn't fit in with her friends and family. This felt like a direct attack on Matt, and by extension me. I told her I wouldn't attend if Matt wasn't welcome because we come as a package deal. She got furious and said it was my choice if I wanted to miss out on the best day of her life. She even called me selfish for forcing her hand. I didn't respond, but the tension between us escalated. 2 months ago, she sent out her wedding invitations, and mine didn't include Matt's name. I reached out again, asking her to reconsider, but she said the decision was final. At this point, I decided I wouldn't attend. I wrote her a heartfelt message explaining that I loved her and wanted to support her, but I couldn't separate my husband and attend a celebration where he was explicitly unwelcome. I said I hope we could work this out eventually, but that I needed to stand by my principles. Since then, family gatherings have become icy. My parents try to mediate, but have taken her side more often than not, saying I'm overreacting and should just go to the wedding for the sake of family. Matt and I have been isolated from much of the family social events. I feel like I'm being punished for standing up for my husband. My sister has also been posting on social media about how I'm the black sheep and how she had to cut toxic people out to have a happy life. Some distant relatives have messaged me privately, expressing support but saying they don't want to get involved. I don't want to be the villain here. I'm hurt and disappointed that my sister would exclude Matt and try to force me to choose between her and my marriage. I thought family meant unconditional support and acceptance. I don't regret standing by Matt, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm being unreasonable or too stubborn. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she won't welcome my husband? AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after a heated argument about her wedding? This has been weighing on me for weeks, and I need some outside perspective because my family is divided and I honestly don't know if I'm the asshole here. A bit of background first. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who is getting married in about 2 months. Our relationship has always been complicated but mostly functional. We aren't super close, but we get along well enough, and I've always been supportive of her life choices. The thing is, Emily has a very particular vision for her wedding, and she's been very vocal about wanting everything perfect and under her control. I respect that, even if I think some things are a bit over the top. Now, I'm more of a laid-back person and not really into the whole perfect wedding culture. I'm helping out with some minor things like addressing invitations and picking up some decorations, but I'm not part of the core planning team. That's Emily, her fiancé, and their moms. About 3 weeks ago, Emily asked me to help with the seating chart. She was struggling with where to seat some relatives and friends, and I agreed to help since I know a lot of the people and dynamics better than her fiancé or moms. I sat down for a couple of hours and made a seating plan that seemed balanced and considerate of people's relationships, personalities, and past drama. I emailed it to Emily, who immediately called me in tears. She said I was ruining her perfect wedding and that the seating chart was all wrong. She accused me of trying to sabotage her day by putting certain people together she specifically didn't want next to each other. I was shocked because I had done exactly what she asked. I try to be diplomatic and avoid conflict. We argued over the phone for about an hour. She kept telling me that I didn't understand how important this was to her and that I was being selfish by not putting her wishes first. I told her I was just trying to help and that if she wanted, I could redo it or she could do it herself. She exploded, saying I was disrespecting her and that maybe I shouldn't be involved at all if I wasn't going to follow her plan. I got upset and told her I felt unappreciated and like she was treating me like an employee instead of her sister. I said I wasn't going to cater to unreasonable demands and that if she didn't want my help, I'd back off. The call ended badly, and since then, she's barely spoken to me. I tried reaching out to apologize for the argument, but clarified I didn't think I did anything wrong and wouldn't apologize for trying to help honestly. She called me cold and selfish, and now our parents and most of the family are pressuring me to apologize and make things right before the wedding. To be clear, I'm not refusing to apologize just to be difficult. I feel like if I did, I'd be admitting fault for standing up for myself and for trying to help in good faith. I'm also upset because she's basically blacklisted me from the wedding plans despite asking for my help originally. It's like I'm being punished for trying to be honest. On the other hand, I understand weddings are sensitive and emotional, and maybe I should have been more flexible or softer about it. But I still think Emily overreacted and was unfair to expect me to create a perfect plan just according to her wishes without any input. Am I the asshole for refusing to apologize and for stepping back from her wedding plans? Should I just swallow my pride and smooth things over for the sake of family peace? Or is Emily being unreasonable expecting me to follow orders without question? Ide apreciataan honest opinions. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.